Inside Track, the official podcast of World Athletics.
All right, my friend, it is day 10 of Inside Track from World Athletics here at Paris 2024. I'm Sonia Richards-Ross.
And I'm Greg Rutherford, and this is your go-to podcast for all of the behind-the-scenes, great interviews, and may I dare say it, some big opinions at times.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I can't believe it's coming to an end because this has been like the highlight for me. It's coming here and just talking to some incredible people. And, you know, we've had a lot of laughs. We've had a few tears, or should I say, I've had some tears, and plenty of great guests. And I feel like today's going to be one of those moments again. We have two great guests that we've paired together because of their unique experiences, right? Yeah. Together, we have Ukrainian athlete Natalia Dobrinska, as well as a sports journalist, Matt Lawton, who visited Ukraine together with Sebco, and they're going to be sharing some insight on that. I really can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. I think we're going to get an insight that probably not many people really ever see. And I think speaking to Matt as somebody that's outside of the country going in to witness it is going to be really, really strong. And then on top of that as well, it's our interview from the other day where is His Serene Highness, the Prince of Monaco #2.
Yeah.
I mean, royalty. Yeah. The fact that we got to talk to royalty was a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
And Prince Albert II is a great man, a lover of athletics.
Yeah.
So it was a brilliant chat that we had.
Yeah, I loved him. We go way, way, way back. Can't wait for you guys to see all about that. And a reminder that this is a daily show. So if this is your first time tuning in, lucky you. You can get caught up on all the episodes. And we hope that you'll continue to follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Absolutely. And if you are listening or watching this on YouTube, do remember as well, go to the World Athletics website, because on the World Athletics website, you've got all the info about our incredible sport, all of the info about this incredible Paris Olympic Games too. So go to worldathletics.org/inside track.
All right. Well, we hope to see you there, but let's get into it today. There's so much to discuss.
Yes.
The track has been hot. But I got some highs and some lows from yesterday, but let's start with the highs.
Okay, it's good.
Let's start with the highs. So Team USA's women, NGB, 1-2.
Yeah, very good.
Sha'Carri Richardson now leaving with a silver and a gold. Gabby Thomas, 2 goals. And then TT Terry and it was TT Terry and Melissa Jefferson, now have 2 goals. And Team GB was fantastic, right?
Absolutely,
They subbed in Daryl Nita.
Yeah, Daryl came in. Yeah, I mean, so what was really nice on the podium where all 6 girls got their silver medal. I feel as if, though, they felt there was a bit of an opportunity to take the US with the odd changeover as well that didn't quite go to plan and things, but wasn't to be, which is often the case. You guys like to just, look around. I like the Sha'Carri as well. It's like looking around towards the end. We got the Sha'Carri. She absolutely killed that, which was amazing to see. So from that point of view, it was a brilliant, brilliant race. But on the flip side of that, where the women succeeded, what on earth happened to the US men's? And why does this keep happening? Well, actually, in the famous words
of Carl Lewis.
He
had some too.
Noah Lyles. The famous words of Noah Lyles when he was asked about Team Canada, he went, "Who?" The journalist went, "Team Canada." Went, "Who?" And then they all laughed. Oh dear.
That didn't age well.
That came back to bite you in the proverbial.
So I did hear about that yesterday. I didn't see that interview, but damn it. I just don't understand. With the depth of talent that Team USA has, it's now going to be 24 years if they're able to get a medal in LA that they have been on a podium. We're talking about Team USA that traditionally has 3 men in the final of the 100.
Exactly. What is, from your point of view, and obviously you're a 4-4 runner particularly.
But I ran a lot of 4x1s too in the early part of my career.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I just want to know from your point of view, why in the US? Because if we look at the UK, we keep picking up relay medals. Now, look, I have to mention what we're very good in the UK at doing is we fund it, right? So those guys get together. They're meant to get together. It's like once a month or so, stuff like that, to practice changeovers, to work out. And actually, at times as well, it's not always the fastest guys that end up turning up on the track.
Making a good point.
Because they get the guys that can get a baton round. And we've seen it at times in the UK where the British number 1 isn't actually part of the relay team.
Well,
so what's happening in the US?
All right, well, here is my hot take. Are you ready for it?
Let's go.
I think 2 things have to happen. I think one is either Team USA decides, like many other countries have, we are going to get 4 guys together and this is the relay team. Forget about who is the best in the world, because the reality is college teams could come to the Olympics and medal.
Yes.
So why not just say, okay, you know what? It's a different event. For you run 100, since we can't get it right, we're going to have a pool of athletes that are just focused on the 4x1. No one's going to like that idea. So here's the other idea. How about just having safe handoffs?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? So here's the thing, and this is kind of like inside baseball, right? So what you see is you see the men go out, they take their steps, they put the tape down, right? So let's say they take 25 steps, right? So boom, 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 the tape is down. Yeah. Just off of common sense, for me, this is when I was 15, 16, 17, even younger. When I would go for the Olympics, I would take 2 steps off. You know why? You might get a little jittery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You might move a little bit too soon. And it's always better to get the stick than to not get the stick. Yeah. So you don't want to extend the zone to the very edge of what is possible. The other thing is that I don't think that they have considered is that you look at someone like a Christian Coleman, who is fantastic to 60 meters, but where does he usually fade in the race?
Yeah, exactly.
Towards the end. So when they're doing their handoffs, he's probably coming in from 40 meters out at top speed, but he's naturally going to be fading a bit. So I just think there isn't enough thought going into how they are getting the exchanges done. And they are paying for it. And at this point now, there are no excuses. Yeah. Like we have to figure something out. Like 7-year-olds are passing. When I was in Jamaica, I was 7, getting the baton.
Exactly.
These are professionals. Like we have to get this right. It is now embarrassing.
It is.
It is embarrassing.
You've touched on it there. The collegiate teams, and I love collegiate sports, especially collegiate track. It's like how the rest of the world I think should be because it's done so well. These guys have all gone through college generally.
Yes.
They've done it 1,000 million times. Like, there's something seriously wrong.
Somebody explain this to me.
You need to sort that out, USA. As much as I'm pretty happy because, we got a bronze medal. So, like in the men's, I'm pretty happy with that. But, okay, don't sort it out too much, USA. Stick with it. How about everything else? I want to tell you very quickly as well with what can happen with the madness of being in Paris as well for me this morning. I nipped out to go and get my children a few little gifts from the Paris Olympics. Should remember to do that before I go home. And they then decided to close off all access to get back to the hotel. So I very nearly didn't make it here on time.
Oh my goodness.
So and I wasn't particularly dressed for running, but I had to then go run out for about probably, I reckon, a mile and a half round.
Oh my goodness.
Because of the marathon this morning. So you've inconvenienced me this morning, I must say, Paris.
That is funny, but a lot is going on in the city and we could talk all day, how we do, but we've got some great guests coming. So let's get you over here, my friend.
Getting ready, let's go.
And let's get them in the hot seat.
So now we are absolutely honoured, aren't we, to be joined by sports writer Matt Lawton and, of course, 2008 Olympic heptathlon champion Natalia Dobrinska.
Hey. Thank you guys for joining us.
How are you guys? How are you guys finding Paris so far?
Oh, Paris, amazing. Paris, this color, I love this color because I never see some colors for everywhere. Yeah. And Paris, I think the marketing in Paris was amazing because Eiffel Tower, everything, the best place of Paris we see with sport object. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. What has been your performance of the meet so far? Your favorite performance?
I like athletics, of course.
Yes.
I love it. And we every day watch for the competition and happy about it. It's very unpredictable.
Yes.
Every day we have something new what we not expect. And this is my best, of course. I love it.
What do you think about Tiam winning 3 in a row?
Yeah, I think for the heptathlon, it's about experience. And when Nafi started the competition in heptathlon, I was competed with her. And I remember her when she was younger and one event had good, but second one no, and she have many emotion. But now she is amazing adult athletes with big experience for his life for heptathlon, and you see every of event very focused, very easy, and very good. And I think for the heptathlon, it's about the experience.
It always showcases it really well. I mean, it is a brutally tough event. And Matt, from your point of view as a sports writer, what is it like at an Olympic Games? Because it must just be utterly manic.
It is, and this one's been particularly manic because, from a British media perspective, we were sat on the Tuesday before the start thinking about where we were going to have dinner, and suddenly the Charlotte Dujardin story broke. and it kind of hasn't stopped since then.
Really?
It's been, look, the sport has been fantastic. I think the games has been spectacular. I think Paris, kind of think they looked at what London did in 2012, and they've really made the most of their city.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're very lucky as journalists, you know, when you're covering the triathlon, you are sat right by the finish line on Pont Alexandre III with that vista, and it's amazing. And you look beyond the dirty water in the Seine, and you look at the Eiffel Tower, and you pity the athletes briefly for having to swim in it.
Absolutely.
And then it's just a brilliant race. They're going up the Champs-Elysees, they're going past the Arc de Triomphe. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I went to the beach volleyball. You know, you're sitting there, you're looking directly at the Eiffel Tower, and watching the marathon this morning. You know, the last couple of kilometres, the Eiffel Tower is just getting bigger and bigger as they're running towards the finish line, and it's so that from that perspective, it's been amazing. I think, look, as journalists, we often have debates in bars about which is better, the World Cup or the Olympics. I always plump for the Olympics.
Yeah, very good.
Partly because of my own sort of running background, but
of course,
look, the World Cup. Yes, it's expanding, but it's until now has been 32 countries.
Yeah,
the entire world comes to the Olympics, and what I love about the Olympics is just all the different human stories that you encounter, the different things you're writing about, and I think they've, as I say, from an atmosphere perspective. And you know better than anybody what it was like on Super Saturday. Actually, I have to say, because you were sitting here, I was doing the swimming that night.
Right.
And I legged it across the park. I'd just seen Phelps. And I was running across so I could see Mo Farah running. And I looked across and I was like, why is Greg Rutherford walking around with a Union Jack on his back? What's happened?
Nobody expected that.
Well, no, but it was more the fact, because of course I wasn't across it.
Yeah.
So I said, has Greg Rutherford won the long jump? And they're like, yeah, he has. Yeah. Like, fantastic.
That's really cool.
Congratulations,
That's really cool.
12 years
Thank you,
later.
12 years. That's good.
So no, look, I think it's been brilliant. It's a massive privilege to be here to cover this event. It's you know, when you are, you know, I've been at the track every night, and it's just been, you know, a few intros have been torched. You know, you sort of, like the worst one actually was back at the swimming pool. I had 2 intros ready. One was if PT won, one was if the Chinese guy won.
Right.
And somebody screamed about 3 seats to the right, who's that bloke in lane 7? And it was the Italian. And you're like, well, I didn't plan for that.
Quick scribble.
Exactly.
And there's been quite a few of those on the track.
I can imagine.
Yes,
Well, I do find it, because we always talk to the athletes, right, about like preparation and everything else. But then I do find it absolutely fascinating for a journalist. Like, it literally must be pretty much completely non-stop to get into the events, to writing the articles, to getting them out there. I mean, after this, what is it, like a very long holiday or just
because I did the Euros, so I've basically not been at home for 2 months. But no, it can be quite crazy, because you do that 1,000-word report. You can have as little as half an hour, 45 minutes. So I'm not suggesting it's as hard as what the athletes do, but it's testing, you know, and then it is particularly testing, as I say, again, Ingebrigtsen versus Josh Kerr, this great duel.
Yeah.
And this other guy wins, and you're like, I wasn't planning for Cole Hocker, right? And I think I was actually in the sort of about 80 meters to go, I think I just started saying Hocker. Because you can see him coming.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, these games have been extremely special. And I certainly want to handle this with care, because, you know, as a backdrop to this, we know that there's a lot happening, especially in Ukraine. And so, you know, I guess I first want to just ask you, like, how important is athletics right now to Ukraine? Obviously, you know, high jump gold again. And, you know, that just seems like such a special moment. But can you just, you know, give us a little bit of insight into, you know, everything going on and how athletics can be less of a sore spot right now for the country?
Yeah, we have the horrible war in Ukraine now, and our athletes have to prepare for competition, have to do something for Ukraine. And every one of Ukrainian athletes here for fighting for our independence, for fighting for the flag in Ukraine, and giving in Ukraine sound for all the world. And we want for the attention for Ukraine, because we have the horrible situation. We have destroyed all of the sport infrastructure, and we don't have any flight in Ukraine. And you can imagine, because when you want to came to Ukraine and athletes need to go across the board, they need two days because we don't have any flight. It's like if we live in Paris and don't have flight, and we need to go drive on the car Munich or Madrid. It's like these points, and for athletes it's a big problem, because 2 days in a bus or something or a car. And every one of athletes after the sport camp want to go home, because home it's home. There's parents over there, friends, and this is situation not good. And of course, infrastructure, we don't have anything now. Some of the stadium we have, but we don't stop, because we have the competition for kids, competition for Ukrainian athletes, and you see we have the fantastic results in these Olympics, and we're happy about this, and we have 12 medals for now for all of event. It's not so bad, because every one of athletes they fight for this Olympics for
absolutely.
Ukraine, really.
And we saw, of course, that Seb and World Athletics came over. And I can imagine that was really, really well received. From you guys, I mean, what was that like? And I mean, what was the impact, and what impact has that had? Because I'm still pretty sure it's one of the only world governing bodies of sport that's taken the time to actually go out there and meet and get involved with the athletes.
Yeah, when Seb a few weeks ago came to Ukraine, it was a big visit. It was amazing visit, because the first one for the Ukrainian athletes who cannot cross the board, because just top athletes for men and people who from 16 until 65 cannot to go across the board, because this is a law for the war. And then Seb come to a Ukrainian championship and talk with everyone of athletes, with the coaches, and they understand how they're important for the athletic community, the world community. And this visit was exactly so important and so amazing for that time. And everyone understand how it's neat just now. And we were in damages infrastructure, and Seb saw everything, and the international journalist can show all the world what we have now, and that's very important for Ukrainian now. And Seb has a meeting with President Zelensky, and President Zelensky for the time the war have think about the army, but he prioritized sport for the time, and Sebko for this situation come to Ukraine. It's very bravely. I don't know, and you never know how the missiles come.
Of course.
It can be for any moment, and you know, and Seb for this situation come to Ukraine and support Ukrainian athletes and support Ukraine for the time. It's like amazing, really.
Big deal. And Matt, you actually visited Ukraine. Can you just give us a little bit of insight into, what you gleaned from that experience?
Well, it's not normal for a sports writer to go to a war zone. Certainly at first for me, it was very humbling, but it was quite harrowing. I didn't really expect it to sort of play out the way that it did. I didn't expect to be confronted quite so immediately by the grim reality of war. I flew in from, I was at the Euros, and I flew in from Germany into Poland to this airport that's very near to the Ukrainian border. And it's the airport that everyone uses, when politicians from around the world access the country. And I think it's the airport that Zelensky would use to travel. I think he would travel to there first and then to go out. And it's the first time in my life that I've landed at an airport and there are Patriot missiles every 200 meters along the border of the runway. So that's the first thing you realize. Then we got the train into Ukraine, into Kyiv. And this was not planned. This was purely by coincidence. But as we were coming in at an adjacent platform, and Natalia was, these guys were waiting for us, was one of the hospital trains. And you've got a fleet of ambulances, you've got dead bodies coming off the train, you've got casualties, and it was staring you in the face. We spent a couple of days there, obviously, and we went down to Lviv for the trials, their Olympic trials, which was the main purpose, beyond obviously Seb meeting Zelensky. And again, it was, I think the most troubling thing that I encountered was I ended up chatting to this guy who was an Olympic high jumper, had been an Olympic high jumper, was 41 years old, was in uniform, had come home because his wife had just had their first child, a little girl, but was going back to war in a few days. And I asked him what his job was. And he was an anti-aircraft machine gun operator. This was a guy who, prior to the invasion, was a meet director, would put on high jump meetings. I met a decathlon coach when we were walking down to the cemetery. Just got chatting to this guy, and he actually showed me a picture, a sort of Google Earth picture of this spot where suddenly there were now all these graves, and it was just a field. But he was telling me that his home is, and I think he's got an athlete here at the Olympics. But he was telling me about the day that war broke out, about the day that the Russians came in. And he lived very close by, and he was with his wife, and they thought it was a thunderstorm. And they went outside, and they were like, well, no, it's not raining. And then he turned on the news. The next day, and again, this is an athletics coach, gets a knock at his door, gets given a rifle and hand grenades, and basically told, best of luck. And now a month later, because the front moved and where the Russians were going moved, but at this point the tanks were a few kilometres from his house, and suddenly again just normal people, normal civilians, having to patrol their own streets. So no, it was the hospital train thing, and when I sat down with Seb the next day, that was difficult.
Yeah. What was when you got to the meet itself? What was the athletes' response to sort of having you there as well? I mean, and how were they dealing? I mean, you saw it firsthand with having to compete and also have all of this going on around them. I mean, you said very difficult to get into their mindset, but you saw it firsthand. I mean, how were they dealing with everything there?
Remarkably, like their resilience. I was talking to two women who were, I think they were 5th and 6th or 4th and 5th in Tokyo in the 400-meter hurdles. And the things they were dealing with was the fact that they had brothers who were on the front line. They were leaving for, they were going on training camps. And again, the only way in, the only way out is on that train. And so you think generally the sort of challenges that an athlete at the Olympics faces with travelling and going to races and training camps. But before they go anywhere, they've got to get this train. And it's not safe. Where we had lunch, I think on the first day, I think within a week, I remember Seb sent me a message saying, a missile's just struck where we had lunch. And it was a hospital. It was a children's hospital. It was big news. It was a global news story. But that was literally 100 meters from where we had lunch. And they are living. I was talking to somebody that was talking about, when the alarm goes off. That it's extraordinary the way they're living, because they have an app on their phone. Every single person in Ukraine has an app on their phone, because the moment a MiG jet goes into the air in Russia, it's picked up by Ukrainian defense systems, and everyone gets an app. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're in Kyiv, you've got, I think, 4 minutes, and if you're in Lviv, you've got 2 minutes. If it's one of these, particularly rapid missiles. And, you know, they're talking about having to stop their training sessions and flee to shelter. Now, some people have got sick of it, and you can understand it. They've just turned the app off. Yeah. Because actually the chances of that missile coming to you are still pretty remote. Yeah. So an awful lot of Ukrainians just are sick of the thing going off 12 times a day, you know? But if you're an athlete on the track, you know, so you can only have respect for the athletes that have made it to this games.
Man, that's, you know, so heavy, but so important, because the reality is, as much as we all like to escape, you know, what's going on in the world, and I think the Olympics provide that for us, a place where we see everybody coming together. You see that hope. You see the best of humanity here at the Olympics. And we've had discussions about, is the Olympics still valuable? And it's like, for so many reasons, you know, we all can agree that it has been. So I appreciate the insight, and just for us to kind of get a glimpse into what it's like to be there. But I would like to bring this back around. And I think, you know, what for me, obviously the inspiration that these athletes are able to even be here competing, you know, shows the best of the Ukrainian people. But let's talk a little bit about your career and, you know, when you competed, and, you know, what your motivation was at the time. And when you look back on that time of your life of competition, you know, what was it like for you? What did it mean to you to be an Olympic champion, and how did you get there?
You know, the Olympic 2008, for me, like yesterday was, but is not. It's 16 years. 16 years. Oh my God.
We're getting old.
And what? But yeah, of course, for me, it's the big decision for my life, because it's Olympic gold. Everyone knows about this, because you felt something like me. And of course, it was the good career and amazing emotion. And now I understand, and for that time too, I do this for my country, and I remember the flag of my country goes rise, and I was so happy, because I felt all of my country near than me, close with me, and it was amazing. And I understand how for this situation our athletes see the flag and game, and what happens with them. It's so nice. And I want to say about our athletes, they're a big example for the new generation, and we can lose new generation because we have chance to lose, but we can do this. And SEP's visit can't do this, because in the meeting with President Zelensky and Sebastian Coe, they talk about sport for young athletes, for the people who introduce Ukraine for the next Olympics, and World Athletics has the big program for Ukraine, for support the young generation, for support the infrastructure things, for education. That's so important for Ukrainian coaches and athletes. And I think we not lose this chance to prepare for the next Olympics and do our generation, Ukrainian generation, healthy and happy.
Awesome. I think that's great. So it clearly sounds as if, as much as all the difficulties that are ongoing in Ukraine, the future is bright, and we're going to see some more Olympic champions coming through over the coming years.
We certainly hope so. Well, thank you guys both so much for joining us. Literally, this podcast has given us everything. I mean, you know, we've talked about, you know, so many topics that I think were light and fun, and also ones that were very necessary. So thank you guys so much for your insights. Thank you for joining us on Inside Track. We hope you guys enjoyed being here as much as we enjoyed having you guys.
It's Natalia and Matt, everybody.
Well, that was powerful.
Oof. Do you know what as well? Looking at Matt and sitting obviously just the other side of the room to him, like, just you could see in his eyes what he'd witnessed genuinely has changed him as well, and probably his perception, a lot of things. Yeah. But it also shows, you can see with Natalia, like, how sort of bright she became and talking about the importance of Seb and
Yeah.
World Athletics coming in and what that can do for the sport. But oof, that was getting me the intricate
too.
details. But
Me too.
that was rough.
Yeah, I think that alongside all of the fun we're having here and the light, moments we've had, it was important for us to have that moment as well.
Agreed.
And, I was, once again, me, a softie, I was holding back tears, imagining what the people are going through and just how incredible it is that they have athletes here representing them so well.
Yeah.
So that was beautiful. But we got somebody else that joined us a couple of days ago.
Yes.
And that was a really, really, really fun interview. Prince Albert II is here of Monaco.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And you really got dressed up for it as well, didn't you?
Well,
I missed that.
Couldn't show up for a prince in my Nike tees.
Well, at least I wore a collar.
Yes, and I mean, you always look sharp.
Thank you. I
Yes, you
appreciate
always
that.
look
Well, the other
smart.
thing, what I really like about him is the fact that he isn't just a prince, and nobody is just a prince, of course, but he is, of course, a 5-time Olympian in a sport that I dabbled in,
Yeah.
but never quite made a games in, and it's so brutal on the body. He's a bobsledder, of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a man.
Yeah.
Like, getting ready to basically run a country, but also with
Yeah.
a bobsled on the side.
Yeah,
Really impressive.
No, and his love for athletics and sports I've always felt that. So yeah, fun conversation. Let's check it out.
Let's do it.
All right, Greg. We have been joined by world record holders. We have had Olympic champions, world champions, but this is a first for Inside Track. We are joined by a prince, Your Serene Highness, Prince Albert II of Monaco. Is here. Give it up.
Royalty. We've gone up in the world.
Thank you.
We are so delighted to have you. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
it's a
taking the
great
time
pleasure.
to join us. We only bring the best to the folks who are
Really?
watching the podcast. And so you have elevated our game.
Really?
Yes. And so obviously I have had the pleasure of meeting you before and you've been around the sport for so long. So I want to just ask you quickly, when did you fall in love with athletics? Like, what was the reason that you became so engaged and why you show up to so many of these competitions?
Well, I think it dates back to my teens or whatever. I always loved track. I always loved to run around and to jump and throw things. And I was never really that good at anything. But I did manage then later on to. I think I'll get into that later on when I also started my bobsled career, which there's a large amount of athletic training that you need to do to push a bobsled, and so. But before that, I was instrumental in getting the Monaco Athletic Association up and running, and of course with Primo Nebbiolo being the wonderful man that he was, and his love of Monaco, and he, I proposed to have the then it was IAAF before it became World Athletics to have the headquarters in Monaco, and so that whole story kind of evolved through the 80s and 90s, and so I've always stayed close to the sport and wanted to bring not only our young athletes in Monaco up to a certain standard, but and to have them participate more in international competitions, but also to hold our own international competitions. And we had a nations dual meet, or the four nations meet at the first 2 years since the opening of the then new Monaco Stadium, and then of course that we became the Hercules meet with an invitational, and then joined the Diamond League and all that. So it was a tremendous adventure and a great way for us to help showcase athletics around the world.
You mentioned the track there, and obviously the Monaco Diamond League's now become one of the big events for the year that lots of athletes look forward to. Do you have a particular just time or event that took place there where something really stands out in your memory, or a performance from one of the athletes since it's been held there?
We've been blessed to have several world records being broken there or being tied. And I remember one of the first ones was Carl Lewis and the Santa Monica Track Club that tied the world record in a relay there. And it's very rare that we would have relays, but but that was the first kind of wow moment. But then there were many others in the middle distance running and long distance, and with the last world record in the women's 2,000 meters in this year's meet. And so, we just try to create the best atmosphere for athletes and the best conditions for them to perform at, and they seem to like to come to
Yes,
Monaco.
we do. Yes.
You should tell me that.
Yes, and that you're leading right into my next question, because it's not only such a great place for athletes to go and compete, but when I was competing, we would host our big end of the year celebration, our kind of gala, and I wanted to see if you remembered this moment, because I'll never forget it. So, Greg, I'm getting the World Athlete of the Year award. Yes, World Athlete of the Year for 2009. All for me. Thank you. And so they call my name. I go on stage, and you were there, and you were so gracious to present my award. Yeah. Well, I had this long speech prepared, and I needed my hands. So I literally turn around and I hand you my trophy to hold it during my speech.
Which I was very happy to do.
Which you were so great. My dad says, you do not give a prince your trophy to hold while you are giving a speach. Do you remember that moment? Do you remember that time? And were you okay with me handing you?
I was fine with that.
We're still okay.
It wasn't that heavy.
No, but you just talk about all the fond memories that we have as athletes in Monaco, and it's still such a great hotbed for athletes to compete. But that's definitely one of my fondest memories.
Yeah, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. As well, when it comes to talent ID in Monaco, like, what's the process? Because again, yourself was a 5-time Olympian in the bob. I'm going to throw my hat in there. I did a season of bobsleigh, and I take my hat off to you because it's brutally hard. Yeah. And of course, we saw with Claire as well coming through and winning the Grand Prix as well. What's it like finding talents and bringing them through?
It's it's very difficult. Everybody would think that in a small country, it's easy to spot and to identify talents and then to bring them through. But if you don't, if you don't have the right channels and the right people in charge, it's a little difficult, and you have a small pool of people to be able to choose from. So it is a much more difficult task than anyone would think of. But we are slowly growing the program, and it's a fascinating process to accompany and to try to help. Of course, we've produced at our level more middle distance runners than any other specialty or any other event. But we are kind of expanding now into other areas. So we hope to produce. Well, we have one women's sprinter here, but she's at the beginning. She's still very young, and she's at the beginning of her career. But we do hope to produce more athletes in the future, and I hope that you will. But we will all witness before we're too old to see a Monegasque athlete on a podium one year. I try to see as many different sports as possible. Of course, I will be at the stadium for athletics a lot.
We'll see you there.
but I do try to, of course, encourage first and foremost our Monaco athletes. But I've been to the BMX, I've been to rowing, I've been to judo and fencing and diving and swimming. So I do try to see as many sports as possible. Like all of us, when we love sports, we want to be as curious as possible to discover new things if we haven't seen them, or to see how different sports evolve and develop through our lifetime. So
awesome. Well, we are so lucky that we
lucky.
had this time with you. Thank you for everything you're doing for the sport.
Thank you.
And we hope that you have the best time in Paris. We really enjoyed having you on Inside Track.
Thanks a lot.
Of course, thank you. I'm happy that he remembered the trophy story.
I love the picture. I've seen the picture of you doing it as well. It is so good. And I can just imagine
it's so me, right?
Thank
now
you,
that you know
everybody.
me.
You hold that. I want to talk now.
My turn. It's all about me right now.
And rightly
Excuse me, Prince.
so. Rightly
no,
so.
I was a little embarrassed after the fact.
That's a big accolade to win as well.
Thank you.
I don't know how I'd react in that position, but probably lobbing me trophy at the Prince's. May not have done that.
Magic. Anyway, that was so much fun. But now it's time for Ask Me Anything. All right. Well, this has been awesome. Well. Awesome. Yes.
I might go into a bit of opera after
this.
Yeah,
I think you have a beautiful voice. You do. You do. Yeah,
Thank you. It's not true.
Enough compliments for you today that I think I reached my quota. All right. Do you have yours ready?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah.
You go first.
Right, mine's from Big Bull John, apparently.
Okay.
I think it's underscore somewhere in there, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. He's put, were you done with the sport when you retired? That's an interesting one. Where were you with that?
That's a great one. I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I would say I was certainly done from the perspective of feeling like I had given it everything I had. I didn't have any regrets and I was ready to move on to the next thing. But then I would say no from the perspective of I was so excited that I was now working with NBC and able to contribute to my sport in a new way. Yeah. So I felt like, and to be very honest, I think that helped me a lot with my transition because it is hard letting go of something you've loved for your whole life. And a lot of athletes, when they're done, they don't have any idea what they want to do next. And some athletes could go into serious depression. Yeah. I was preparing myself my whole time. And so I feel like I was done from the perspective of like, this is it, like I'm ready to go, like I'm ready to move on, but I wasn't because I got to still be a part of it. And I think that helped to really keep me still feeling fulfilled and, like I had purpose and all that stuff. So I was grateful kind of for how my career ended.
Yeah.
How about you?
I was very similar. So I'd basically lined up 2 days after I'd retired. I went and filmed a TV show in the UK and do that. Broadcasting and working TV was always something that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I had set it all up. But I'll be honest as well. I mean, after my Olympic bronze medal, I was very much like, I'm done with this. Like I need to get away from this sport for a bit. Yeah. And I think that's always something that people don't really appreciate as much as you have these amazing highs and everything else. There was a lot of lows during it as well. And I mean, obviously an Olympic bronze medal is still a great achievement, but it's one of those things that at that point I was like, I just need to get out of this for a bit. Yeah. So for me as well, when I retired, the broadcasting thing was great. And I did really enjoy still sort of dipping a toe, but I felt as if I needed to sort of refresh myself a bit, reset. So I didn't have as much involvement probably on the ground as I do again now. So.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that too. All right, well, my question comes from Andrea Boo, 105.
Oh, 105.
And she's asking, what were some of the things that we experienced as athletes that, people may not know, like day to day?
That's a good question.
That's a good one, right?
Well, I mean, if I'll just speak for myself for a moment, that for me, right, nutrition was always a really, really interesting one, right? So for me, so my body, and I've had my DNA test with this as well, my body likes to put weight on.
I'm done.
My body very much, and I like to eat the food that puts the weight on.
I've never heard anybody say that before. Like,
so genetically,
from that perspective,
I'm at a disadvantage from the point of view of basically I can put on weight very, very easily. Right, it was really frustrating.
You're being serious right now?
Yeah, I'm 100% serious.
Okay,
yeah. DNA's been tested, the whole thing. Like not everybody has it. So like metabolism and everything else. And like that, we've got this tree now in the way again. But for me, it was little things like going shopping. Yeah. Right, if I go in food shopping, I go grocery store. I literally would not walk down certain aisles, right? So I like cake a lot, a lot of cream cakes in particular. So that's why France
I think
is
it's more about
me.
the foods that you like than your DNA.
No, it is that as well. It is that as well. But that's why I have, because there's a lot of athletes. I mean, I used to train for a 400 meter runner, a guy called Rob Tobin, who would eat about 15 breakfasts in the morning. And honestly, he had nothing to him at any point.
Too,
Some people have that. I never did.
Okay.
And where it was interesting, what was different for me is having to literally program myself to not walk down certain aisles because I knew if I was looking at it, I was like, I'm going to really want that.
Get that.
And if you don't see it, you don't crave it as much. True. And so for me as well, and on the food thing, like everybody just assumes because you do sport, you're going to be eating like pasta, rice, everything else. I basically lived off of salad and meat for breakfast, for lunch and for dinner.
Wow.
Because of the way my body was.
Wow.
And look, I had to run 45 meters and jump into a sandpit. I mean, I had to be powerful and strong, but I had to be light. Yeah. And that's something I don't think people really appreciate. The food sacrifices that you have to put in at times.
That takes a lot of discipline.
You learn to like condiments though. So I can cook chicken pretty well because you have to eat a lot of it. You might as well enjoy it as much as you possibly can. So a bit of Tabasco, a bit of Cholula, all that sort of stuff. Get it in there.
When you said the question, I was thinking of a complete different angle that most people don't realize was for us was like our whereabouts testing, drug
That's a
testing.
great one. Yeah.
And literally, we would have to fill out a form, and you'd have to tell the drug testers where you were every single day of the week, Monday through Sunday. And if you were not at that location and you had not alerted them, you could get a whereabouts filing error.
Absolutely.
And I remember there was a stint of my career, and I'm not exaggerating to you, where I was being tested almost every week. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, there's nobody else for you guys to test? Like, and I mean, 6 o'clock in the morning, she's coming to the house, knocking on the door. She's coming to track practice, and it was a part of being one of the best athletes in the world that I think a lot of people don't realize how challenging that is.
Absolutely.
And then also to remembering every morning you wake up, wait, am I going to be at home at that time?
Absolutely.
Or do I need to adjust my schedule? So very tricky. I never had a whereabouts filing error, obviously, thank God. I actually hired someone to do do that on my team. Literally, that was their only job. Make sure my whereabouts filing is up to date.
It is. I mean, again, I had similar. And I remember the last 5 weeks leading into the London Games, I was tested 6 times out of competition. And that year it was around 30 times. But fundamentally, it has to be done in order to keep the sport.
I have no issue with it. Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue. The only thing is I just want it to be fair. Like everybody else is getting tested equally as much as we are.
Absolutely.
But fun stuff. Once again, another great episode. Hope you guys are enjoying, because we just love bringing you these incredible moments and incredible people. So keep following the pod wherever you get your podcasts.
Absolutely. And remember, if you just watch it on YouTube, you got to get yourself, or wherever you're actually listening to it, to be honest, it could be more than YouTube. You've got to get yourself on the World Athletics website. You've got to go and check out everything about it. And we've obviously got a World Champs coming up at some point as well. So all of the future things that come with this incredible sport. So go to worldathletics.org/inside track for all of this incredible content.
Yep. And our final day is tomorrow, so don't miss it. Stay tuned. See you then.
See you later.